The thing that drives a story is the want, or the quest or goal of the people in the story. For Abraham, the motivation for his story was God's promises to him that his descendants would be as numerous as the stars of the heaven or the sand of the seashore, that through him nations would come, and that through him all the peoples of the world would be blessed, and that also his descendants would possess the land of Canaan. A land is the place where God's presence would rest, and heaven and earth would intersect as they did in Eden. Abraham passed that want, or that blessing, on to Isaac. Jacob, Isaac's son, wanted it so much that he schemed to get it. But Jacob has 12 sons. Who will be the son to receive the blessing? Who will be the son who wants it? Welcome to Building Metal, brought to you by Baird & Wilson Sheet Metal. Jacob and Esau reconciled, but the size of both of their families and estates prevented them from settling near each other. So Esau moved out of the land promised to Jacob to the land of Mount Seir, a range that extends south from the Dead Sea to the Gulf of Aqaba. This region would be known as Edom. Jacob and his sons settled in Shechem in the land of Canaan, west of the Jordan River, then moved south to Bethel and finally settled where Isaac lived near Hebron. During these travels, Rachel gave birth to Jacob's 12th son, Benjamin, in Bethlehem on the way to Hebron. She died right after the baby was delivered. Jacob buried her there and set up a pillar on her grave to honor her. Not long after, both Jacob and Esau buried their father Isaac together near the trees of Mamre. But some other surprising things occurred on the way to settling in Hebron. Reuben, the eldest son of Jacob, and a prime candidate to receive the blessing of Abraham, disqualified himself by sleeping with Rachel's maidservant Bilhah. Also, Simeon and Levi committed cruel acts of extreme violence on the citizens of the town of Shechem. Disqualified. The next in line of the sons of Leah is Judah. But then there's Joseph. Although he is not Jacob's eldest son, Joseph is the firstborn of his deceased wife Rachel. He was 17 when Jacob gave him an ornate robe that signified a position of privilege. The robe communicated to everyone that Joseph would be the one who would inherit the blessing. When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him. Joseph also didn't help matters. Once while tending flocks with the 4 sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, he gave a bad review of them to his father Jacob. Wait, why is he the boss? Also, Joseph was a dreamer. He said to his brothers, "Listen to this dream I had. We were binding sheaves of grain out in the field when suddenly my sheaf rose and stood upright, while your sheaves gathered around mine and bowed down to it." That went over big. His brothers said to him, "Do you intend to reign over us? Will you actually rule us?" Then he doubled down. A short time later, he said to his brothers, "Listen, I had another dream, and this time the sun and moon and 11 stars were bowing down to me." When he told his father as well as his brothers, his father rebuked him and said, "What is this dream you had? Will your mother and I and your brothers actually come and bow down to the ground before you?" Much has been made as to why Joseph would be naive enough to tell his jealous brothers his dreams. Is Joseph really this bad at reading the room? Is he this arrogant? Some have said he's a spoiled teenager, adored by his father and mother, who simply lacks the judgment of a fully developed frontal lobe. Yet we see later how it's his judgment and wisdom that are his noted attributes. Maybe it was his strategy for securing the blessing to discourage the other contenders and to demonstrate how he is the divinely appointed heir apparent. Some have even suggested Joseph's combination of superior intelligence and lack of social skills is evidence that he is somewhere on the autism spectrum. Or it may just be that in a prophetic sense, Joseph regards the dreams as God's revelation, that a prophet is compelled to communicate regardless of the consequences. Jesus himself said, "A prophet is not without honor except in his own town, among his relatives, and in his own home." So the animosity of his own people only grew toward the young prophet, just as it would for Jesus. The brothers of Joseph had all gone to graze their father's flocks near Shechem, which is about a 3-day journey. Jacob, whose name is now Israel, is of course worried about his sons. Bad things happened the last time they were there. Their father has an active imagination. So he sent Joseph to check on them and bring back a report. When Joseph arrived at Shechem, he couldn't find his brothers. He eventually located them near the town of Dothan, another day's journey. But they saw him in the distance, and before he reached them, they plotted to kill him. "Here comes that dreamer," they said to each other. "Come now, let's kill him and throw him into one of these cisterns and say that a ferocious animal devoured him. Then we'll see what comes of his dreams." Reuben, the oldest, insisted they do not kill him, Simeon and Levi, but simply put him in an empty cistern. His plan was to leave and come back later to rescue Joseph. So when Joseph arrived, the rest of the brothers stripped him of his ornate robe and threw him in the cistern. Then they sat down to eat lunch. We learn later in the story from the brothers themselves how distressed young Joseph was that day, how he pleaded with them for his life, and how instead of listening, they just sat and ate lunch. As they were eating, they looked up and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead on their way to Egypt. Judah said to his brothers, "What will we gain if we kill our brother and cover up his blood? Come, let's sell him to the Ishmaelites and not lay our hands on him. After all, he is our brother, our own flesh and blood." His brothers agreed. For Judah, it seems, profit wins over everything else. So they pulled him out of the cistern and gave him to the merchant caravan for 20 shekels of silver. When Reuben returned to the cistern and saw that Joseph was not there, he tore his clothes. Tearing one's clothes was a response to overwhelming emotions such as grief, sorrow, or outrage. He went back to his brothers and said, "The boy isn't there! Where can I turn now?" What does he mean, where can I turn? For Reuben, apparently, saving Joseph was his attempt to get back into his father's good graces. But perhaps the realization quickly set in, though, that rather than going after Joseph, which is still an option, now that he's out of the picture, Reuben is back in contention for the blessing. Then they got Joseph's robe, slaughtered a goat, and dipped the robe in the blood. They took the ornate robe back to their father and said, "We found this. Examine it to see whether it is your son's robe." He recognized it and said, "It is my son's robe. Some ferocious animal has devoured him. Joseph has surely been torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put on sackcloth, and mourned for his son many days. All his sons and daughters came to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. "No," he said, "I will continue to mourn until I join my son in the grave." So his father wept for him. Having lost Rachel through her pregnancy, and now having lost Joseph because he sent him after his brothers, how could Jacob not be drowning in grief and guilt? And yet, the 10 older brothers, having heard both the cries of Joseph and the devastating sorrow of their father, did nothing. But God was with Joseph. Here are some tools to take with you. Number 1, A selfish heart sees only selfish motives in others, and a trusting heart is often broken. Better to have a broken heart than a selfish one. Number 2, our desire for money, comfort, and status can numb our sensitivity toward the suffering of others. Guess which one of these matters to God the most? Number 3, despite all evidence to the contrary, God is working on our behalf. We'll be back again soon with more tools from Building Metal.